showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people making Salt Lake City what it is today. It's time for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.
Welcome to episode 155 of the I Am Salt Lake podcast. My name is Chris Hollifield. I am your host. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for listening and downloading it, streaming it, however you're listening to the podcast. Thank you so much for checking it out. I know there's a few first-time listeners, so thank you so much for checking out the show. You can find out more about me, find out more about the podcast at iamsaltlake.com. That's where you can find links for iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Mediocre Radio Network.com. You can leave reviews on iTunes, Stitcher Radio. You can also leave a voicemail. I got a voicemail line you can call up, 385-202-5926. I'd love to know your thoughts on this episode or any other episode of the podcast. I'd love to interact with you guys a little bit more. You know, I've been able to develop some great friendships doing this show. I've had a heck of a time doing it, going on 2 years of doing the I Am Salt Lake podcast, and I've met some really, really great people doing this show. Like today's guest, Johnny McKeon. Got to know him from Ol'Ute Radio. I was a guest on that show a while back. Got to meet him and Sasha. And when I got to meet him, I told Johnny, I said, listen, I got to get you on the podcast. So I was excited to finally get an opportunity to sit down and chat with him. Johnny's a great individual. If you get a chance to know him a little bit better, hopefully through this show. He's a writer. He's done some stand-up comedy. He works at ABC4 here in Utah. He works with Ol'Ute Radio. I mean, this guy, he is up to a lot here in Salt Lake City and a really great individual. And I was really, really excited to sit down with him and have a conversation. I'm going to be playing that here in just a second. He came over to my apartment. We sat down. We just had a really great conversation. It was kind of crazy when we sat down. The power in the building kept going out, but luckily, the recording came out good. I had a really great conversation with him, and hopefully you guys enjoy that and get to know both him and myself a little bit better through this episode. We had a really great conversation. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. You can follow me at I Am Salt Lake. Tweet at me, I Am Salt Lake. Let me know what's going on in Salt Lake City. You know, Salt Lake City, I want to make this your podcast. I want to get to know you guys. If you guys have any events you want me to promote on the show, drop me an email. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to bring our community a little bit closer together. Sometimes we can feel so far apart, but we're such a small city at the same time that we need to work closer together. I mean, I think we all can scratch each other's back just a little bit more. Hopefully you guys are enjoying summer. Hopefully you guys are getting out and supporting some of the local events going on. I know the Twilight Concert Series started up, Downtown Farmers Market at Pioneer Park, Craft Lake City's coming up. There's been some great festivals going on here in town. Hopefully you guys are getting out and about and enjoying them. So anyways, like I said, Johnny McKeon is on this episode of the podcast. So I'm going to jump into that conversation now. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. And thank you so much for listening to another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast. Anyways.
So, yeah, you brought up the point of, like, being more vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that's something I wrestle with every day. We're taught to be afraid of everything in life, you know? And especially, like I have a job in the news. Mm-hmm. So I have to watch what I tweet. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
do you feel like you, or do they say?
I feel.
Johnny,
that's the worst part.
Watch it. Watch what you say.
I feel that way. They haven't said a thing. I don't even really know. Like, they don't really follow me. Some do. Some of my coworkers do. But the fact that, like, I tweet pictures at work, you know, like me at the studio and stuff, like, I feel like, oh crap, now I can't, you know, swear or, you know, say how I really feel all the time. Like, I feel like it's encroaching. My job is encroaching on my voice.
And I sense that from people in Utah.
Yeah.
I don't sense it so much from people outside of Utah, at least from my perception.
Yeah.
You know, obviously I listen to a lot of podcasts, radio, even follow people on Twitter and Facebook. And it's like, these people go balls out. They don't hold anything back. They're not afraid. And is it because we do live in a small city like Salt Lake City, small lake city, so to say, where everybody does know everybody. Word travels so quickly. At work, it's like you say one thing and all of a sudden everybody in your office knows, all your friends know. You go through a breakup, you go through, you get in a new relationship, you go through a divorce. All of a sudden the whole city knows.
Yep.
Sometimes before the person that you broke up with knows.
Well, I mean, we live in the information age where, we tell more on Facebook than we do to people in real life. We show all our drama. Like, people tweet out every single thing they think of,
Yeah.
And Utah itself has, it has ties to it's slightly an oppressive culture sometimes, there's things there that make people hesitant.
But what is it about it that you're afraid of? What are you afraid to say? Unless you're saying, oh, I ate a coworker's lunch, or if you're afraid to tweet, say you called in sick and then you start tweeting that you're at the ski slopes. I mean, what is it that you're afraid of? Honestly.
No, I know. And it's a good question. And
because it's probably nothing.
Yeah.
You're just afraid.
Yeah. Well, since fourth grade, I was on Ritalin. It made it very difficult for me to communicate in some ways.
Okay. So is it fair to say you have ADD? ADHD?
Yeah. Oh, I completely have ADD.
I have it as well.
Without a doubt.
ADHD.
ADD is how I do the million things I do.
Well, and I think, I think a lot of creative folks do have that.
Without a doubt.
No judgment on my end.
Oh, no. And the point I'm making is that while I was on Ritalin, it changed me in a lot of ways. And I've been off it now for about a year.
Okay.
I got off it, and
do you feel better being off of it?
This has been the craziest year of my life. I realized how much it was holding me back.
You think so?
Yeah.
What was holding you back?
The Ritalin, and it really is. It's a mind-altering drug that it kept me in a fearful place. It kept me reserved. It made me more obedient.
Obedient. Explain, just to society.
Yeah,
like
to society.
You listened to people. You didn't rebel.
Yeah, I didn't rebel as much. Like, I stifled myself creatively in a lot of ways. It's why I became a writer, because I would write down everything I wouldn't say out loud. Everything.
So being off of Ritalin now, what do you feel like you can accomplish? More?
More. So much more. I feel like I'm finally getting to know myself. I feel like I'm finally becoming a real man, a complete man, Like, I'm 27 years old.
Yeah.
I thought I would have been a man a long time ago.
Oh, dude, I'm 30. I'm 36. I still feel far from being a man. And I ask that, 'cause I've been on so many different antidepressants and ADHD drugs and ADD drugs, all of that. And it's interesting how I've seen the effects of what one does versus another. And it is amazing. Yeah. It is amazing. There has been some that I've taken that I feel like my brain is clouded, that I feel like I'm more of an asshole. I feel like I'm more of a jerk in a relationship. I feel like, there's some that, you can lose 50 pounds on, and then there's some that all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're 80 pounds heavier.
Yeah.
And talk about quickest way to depression.
Yeah.
What is this? What is Johnny's story? So you're not from Salt Lake City.
Nope, not at all. I'm from Sacramento, California.
Sacto, California.
Yep, Sacktown.
So you grew up there?
Yeah, so I was born in Canada originally.
So you're a Canadian?
I just became a citizen in December, yeah.
Last December?
Yeah, December 20th.
Was that exciting for you?
Yes, it was. It was more of a relief than excitement. I bawled my eyes out.
Relief and how? Because then you got to finally be legal. They couldn't kick you out of the country.
Well, I'm a legal immigrant. I was 100% legal coming over here. My parents did everything by the book. We moved here in 1990, and we would just keep renewing our green card. Every 10 years.
So your parents and the whole, why Sacramento? Why Sacramento from Canada?
My mom just got a good job in nursing. She was a nurse, and I believe they moved to Sacramento. They like the city. They like California. They like the weather.
Well, who doesn't, right?
Yeah,
California's
they're from Sacramento.
Awesome.
It's freezing.
Well, yeah, true. Yeah. So where in Canada? Where?
London, Ontario.
Which is?
Right above Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah. So the reason why it was such a relief to get my citizenship finally was because this country's all I've ever known. I may be Canadian on paper, but I was raised American. I was educated American, but I don't have the same rights as you. I don't have the right to vote. Can't go to jury duty.
Which so many of us dread. We're like, oh shit, I got called to jury duty.
I would love to go just for one.
I've never been called to jury duty. I think it's because I move so much, and so they can't track down my address.
I got called once, but I couldn't do it because I was Canadian. And
They're like, oh, he's a Canadian, get him out of here.
Yeah, exactly. And I got so scared because it was time to renew my card, and I have to pay, like $750. It's a lot of money
Every year?
No, every 10 years.
Okay.
If I get like a DUI or if I assault someone, I could get booted right back to Canada. And that's a country I know.
I think they want to boot everybody with a DUI to Canada. Just get them to Canada.
Well, it scares me too because if you get a DUI, you can't go to Canada if you're an American. Like, it's much harder to get into Canada if you've had a DUI. So I'm scared, like, if I get a DUI, am I, like, stuck on the border? Like,
you're sitting here, son, for a little while.
Yeah, I'm a man without a country. And, yeah, it scared me because America's all I've ever known. It's where I want to live. I want to work here. Like, I don't want to go back to Canada. And the fact that they could easily just kick me right out.
So
it was terrifying.
You really, truly are proud to be an American.
Yeah,
as cheesy as that song is, which not a lot of people that live here are proud.
I guess so, yeah.
Which is kind of sad.
Yeah. America has been good to me. I mean, I've had the immigrant mindset. My mom, she's a Jamaican immigrant. She came to America and she did something with her life like that she couldn't have done back home. She became one of the most amazing nurses. Top ranked. She did everything right. She was incredible. I've seen her like performance reviews, just perfect fives all the way down. You know what I mean? And she came from Jamaica, like a country where she grew up picking sugar cane.
Yeah.
She didn't go to school till 8th grade, and she was able to turn her life around and worked so hard to give us a good life, and she got us to America and she did the best she could, and
so you weren't born in Jamaica then?
No, I was born in Canada.
In Canada.
Yeah. She escaped Jamaica.
Do you have dual citizenship now then for Canada in
It's kind of muddled. Technically, yes. America doesn't recognize that I'm a Canadian citizen here, but in Canada, they still recognize me as a Canadian citizen.
Well, and I don't recognize it because I don't hear a lot of A's and hosers, stuff like that. No. Yeah. But, is there anything that you wish, like there was something about, do you remember anything about Canada that you wish the United States would implement, like even healthcare?
Yes, I do actually. Yeah, their medicine's fantastic in the sense of like the way they pay for it. Like they pay for it through a thing called sin taxes. So basically, they tax the crap out of liquor, beer, cigarettes. I think cars are included in that as well. Like cars are a little more expensive in Canada.
Okay,
but they subsidize the healthcare through those measures. And I mean, the idea of paying twice as much for liquor in order to be healthier in a sense. Like I like the idea of that. Yeah.
And maybe we can take that idea here in the United States and eventually apply it here as well. I don't think so. So
I don't know. I doubt it.
So what brought you? So Sacramento.
Yeah. So Sacramento.
You went to high school. Did you go to college there?
So I was going to go to college. This is where it gets kind of complicated. So I played rugby.
Oh, awesome.
And I was really good. I went pretty far with it. I was all-state, first team, California all-state. We placed third in the nation. I played 1 year at Sacramento State. Just played on the team. I didn't actually go to school. I was working at the post office at the time. And
what were you doing at the post office?
I just loaded mail.
Sorted mail.
Yeah, sorting mail, loading trucks. Did 12 hours a day. It was brutal.
Well, did you know that's actually one of my dream jobs is to work at a post office?
Oh, no. It's horrible.
Just because I've always wanted to wear the shirt and the hat and have the little satchel.
Yeah, the uniform's nice.
But so anyways, you were sorting mail in Sacramento.
Yeah, and I was just miserable.
Yeah.
And I'd been in Sacramento my whole life. I didn't particularly like a lot of the people I knew. I didn't particularly like where I was from. I went to good schools, but lived in bad neighborhoods, and it got to be too much. I mean, people I know started dying, and
they weren't supposed to die, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Like your age.
Yeah.
Friends your age dying.
Like good, wholesome people, not even like gangbangers and stuff, like good people. And I just need a way out. And a couple of my buddies, they had moved to Utah, and I figured, I'll check it out because they play rugby's really big out here too. So I figured, I'll come out here, play rugby out here, because the U is The U and BYU are like one in like BYU is like number one for rugby.
Really?
Yeah, BYU and Cal Berkeley are number one for rugby. And in fact, actually, in rugby in general, my league in California and the league out here for high school are the two best leagues in the country as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of experience in Utah and Colorado. Like I've flown back and forth playing ball out here. It's just beautiful. I love the mountains. It's so different, So, I came out here, didn't really have a plan. I just knew I didn't want to be in Sacramento.
And how old were you when you decided
18 turning 19.
When you decided to move to Sacramento? Yeah. It sounds like when that was about the same age when I took off from Provo to move out to Pennsylvania. Because I was like, forget this. I'm over this Utah County garbage. And I had friends out east, out in Pennsylvania, and I was about 18, 19 years old. That's scary, man. It's scary.
It is.
It's crazy to look back. And is it hard for you to look back and say, you look at kids that are 18 and 19 now, and you're like, I was doing that when I was that age?
Yeah.
Anyway, did you decide did you get all your papers to go to the U then at that time, or you just moved here?
I just moved here. I just moved here. I didn't really have a plan.
It's the best way to do it, though.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, and so I didn't really do much for like the first couple years. Like I worked at FedEx. I did that for about 2 years. Then I got a job at Gold's Gym, and that's when I really everything started turning out better for me. Like I was able to work a job where I was able to just hang out with people all day and just shoot the shit and like crack jokes, and that's where I started really developing my humor, and I was able to like just talk to people and because I love conversation.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I didn't know that. That's where I learned that. I learned because I would talk to everyone from old to young, like every single member. I would just hang out on the floor. I'd work out, pick up the weights. That was my job, just to pick up weights. That was it.
Let me pick that up for you.
Yeah, exactly. So, man, I was in the best shape of my life. It was an amazing job, and it taught me that work can be fun.
And work should be fun.
It is, and it kind of ruined all other jobs for me, honestly. After working there. Like, I want my jobs to be fun. Like, I couldn't go back to, like, the post office or FedEx after having a job like that. Because, like, I used to bust my ass in the post office and in the FedEx because I developed that work ethic early, Well,
yeah, work hard. If you work hard, you'll progress. You'll advance with a company. I mean, my mom taught me the same thing growing up. And there's actually, sadly, there's a lot of not truth to that. If you work hard, they're going to be like, Johnny over there, he'll work for $5 an hour, bust his ass and work hard, and we don't have to give him a raise.
Yeah, he works too hard at that position. Let's keep him there. It'll be hard to replace him if we brought him up.
Yeah, no, and I've actually discovered that with a lot of jobs that I have been in, where it's almost like, wait a minute here. This is actually biting me instead of being to my advantage.
Totally.
So when did you decide, so you went to school a little bit in Sacramento? But you moved out here.
Yeah.
You were just living. You were like living with a couple friends.
I was living with my parents. I brought my parents out here.
So your parents moved here.
Yeah, they followed me.
Do they still live here in Salt Lake? Excellent. So, because I was actually going to get to that point where it was like, because it was tough for me when I lived out east to be so far from family and not be able to see family. Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I got a brother. How old is he now? He's like 32, 31.
Okay. Does he live here as well?
No, he lives back in Sacramento on an Air Force base. He's in the Air Force. And he bounces between there and LA. He takes classes at Santa Monica.
Okay.
Yeah, City College. And I have a sister. She's 30. She has autism. She has Asperger's.
Okay.
With a little bit of mild schizophrenia. And I've been looking after her since I was like 11. And so
she lives with you.
Yeah, she lives with my parents, but she will eventually live with me.
Yeah.
When my parents pass, she will be my responsibility.
And you and your sister are pretty close then?
Very close.
That's awesome.
Well, she's the reason I work so hard. She got a bum deal out of life, because she's too smart for special ed, but too dumb for, regular school. Like, she's right in the middle where she's cognizant enough to understand that life can be better, but she doesn't have the mental capabilities to act on that. She has impulse control. She's a whirlwind of emotion.
Says the wrong thing at the wrong at the wrong time. Whatever.
Totally.
That phrase is. Yes. I know exactly.
Yeah,
what you're talking
she's
about.
a hurricane.
Yeah.
And I love her to death. And she's a big reason why I work hard, because I want to give her a good life. Like, I want to be able to provide for her.
And that's awesome. I think there's a lot of people in situations like your sister who don't have that.
Yeah.
And hopefully she realizes it, or one day will realize it. And
she does. Yeah, she texts me every day.
I'm not a religious person by any means, but I do believe certain things happen for a reason. Mm-hmm. People are put together for a certain reason.
Yeah,
I can see that. Universe connecting, and there's a reason there for that. So,
I believe in degrees of synchronicity.
Yeah. At what point did you decide to go to the U then?
So this is actually an interesting story.
Yeah, let's.
So I'm 22 years old. I met my girlfriend Sarah. She is the greatest person in my life. She does for me everything that I can't do for myself. It's not much, but what it does, it counts. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it's the right 10%. It's exactly what I need. I could always get A's in school, but I didn't know how to get into school. You know what I mean? She showed me with Pell Grants that I don't need to take up tons of student loans. She helped me, she showed me how to get a scholarship. She showed me how to do all these things. So she set me up for school. And then I went to UVU and, I was getting A's and I was working really hard and I wanted to be involved in the community of UVU. So I went to like the minority resource center and I told them like, hey, I'd be willing to give a speech on Martin Luther King's Day because they needed people to do stuff like that, And I just kept getting a lot of doors slammed in my face,
What doors from where?
From the resource center.
Really?
Yeah, the honors program. I had to write an essay for the honors program, and they asked, like, what was the most influential book you've ever read and why? And I told them the autobiography of Malcolm X, and I think
which is a great book.
It's an incredible book, but when you say that name to people who aren't actually familiar with him or have read the book, it comes off.
Oh my gosh, he was an activist. He was a radical.
Yeah. So basically, they treated me like I was a cage rattler, like I was just going to be a pain. I couldn't get anything done. And it just got to the point where I got so frustrated because I wanted the most out of my education. If I'm going to pay for it, I want it to be good. So I was like, fuck it. I'm going to transfer to the U. I'm going to try out for the football team. That's something else I can do, So
you were going to UVU, though, but you weren't living in Utah County. You were just traveling?
No, I was living in Utah County.
Okay, so you were living in
Pleasant Grove,
Gosh, I'm so sorry, John.
Yeah, I lived in Utah County for about 4 or 5 years.
At least Pleasant Grove, though. Yeah. But you know what? That area has changed.
Yeah.
I give it a little bit of credit every time because my mom still lives in Orem, and I know I've said this a million times on the podcast. I go down there and visit her from time to time. Not as often as I should. And every time I go down there, I say, you know what? This isn't a bad area. I mean, I don't know if you experienced this. I don't know how it was for you, but I remember going to a Starbucks and having to teach them how to turn on a pot of coffee. Having to buy. It's at that time I smoked regular cigarettes, and I would have to know the spots to buy them. I mean, you would get a stale pack of cigarettes because they were not selling fast enough in Utah County. Yeah. So anyways, you were living in Pleasant Grove.
Yeah. So, and Utah County was horrible for me. People treated me like I was invisible. Like, it was awful going.
Why do you think that was? Why?
Because I was black and big and, brown skin,
I didn't want to say it, but you know what I mean? I didn't know if that was an issue.
That was it. Yeah, it's a huge issue. It's an issue I deal with every day in my life.
Still, do you feel that that's an issue here in Utah? Salt Lake?
It's an issue in America in general.
You think
really.
so?
Yeah, well, especially for me because I'm half black and half white. So I've either been too black to be white or too white to be black. Like I've had brothers growing up that used to call me light skinned, red bone, crap like that. And then, I got white kids who, would either tell me I'm not black or I'm too black, like everyone was trying to tell me who I was growing up. And it was very tough. And that's a big reason why I left.
Was that tough for your identity to figure out, who's Johnny?
Yeah, it was horrible.
Who am I?
Oh, it was absolutely horrible. I wasn't even Johnny then. Like people used to call me John. And I hated it.
Really?
Yeah.
So you do like Johnny?
I love Johnny.
Yeah.
Johnny is perfect. I think it suits me perfectly, and it's who I want to be.
So would you tell your parents? Would you talk to your parents? Were your parents there to listen to you as you struggle with this, or as a child struggling with this? Did you have
my parents
much of
had a lot on their plate with my sister?
Okay.
And
so you kind of let them be, and you backed off.
Well, my parents, the way they raised me, and it's a credit to them, they gave me the tools and then let me go out. Like they told me young, hey, if you smoke pot, this is what happens. If you drink, this is what happens, Like my mom, she raised me. She's like, always keep your ID on me. You don't want to be a black man walking around without ID, stuff like that. Like,
I don't think you want to be anybody walking around without ID. It don't matter what color skin you got.
Yeah. So they raised me to think for myself and fend for myself.
Well, I think they've done a heck of a job.
I mean, from
what I know of you.
Oh, I I do not blame my parents for a single problem or difficulty in my life. I know a lot of people of our generation tend to. It seems to be the popular thing to do. I'm grateful for everything that my parents gave me. You know, they gave me more than they ever had, and that's really all a parent can do. Yeah. That's the best thing a parent can do, in my opinion. So, yeah, you know, I'm grateful, you know, that they spent more time on my sister than me because she needed it. You know, I'm okay. You know, they're like, yeah, he's a smart kid. He'll figure it out. And I did. You know, it took me a little bit longer. I mean, I didn't go to college until I was like, I didn't really, really go to school till, you know, I was about 22, you know, so I had a more mature mindset then. And that's a big reason why I left Utah County to go to Salt Lake, because I knew there was no growth there. I needed to grow. I needed to expand who I was, you know, and so I went out to the U. I figured, you know, I'll try out for the football team because, you know, they had just joined the Pac-12. They had just created that. So I figured I want to go where the action is. You know, if the Pac-12 is going on in Salt Lake City, why am I here in Utah County and Orem at UVU? So I went over there, didn't make the team. I didn't get too heartbroken over it. You know,
maybe a little bit, maybe just a tiny bit.
Not too bad. You know, yeah, in the moment, it sucks.
But you moved on.
Yeah, well, with the way my life worked out, I'm so glad I didn't get to the football team. So, you know, I'm there and I'm studying econ and I'm just miserable. I'm just miserable studying economics. It's just not right. So, you know, I start listening to podcasts. I'm listening to Joe Rogan talk about stand-up comedy. And I'm deciding, you know what, like I'm going to look into that. I'm going to look into being a comedian because I love comedy. I've loved it since day one, you know, since I was a little kid. And that's when everything started working out for me. I switched over to the communication degree because, you know, they showed me they have a TV studio. They have like all this recording equipment.
And you just fell in love with that.
I totally fell in love with it, man. I was like, oh, I could learn this. This is way better than learning labor economics and, you know, subprime mortgage crisis and so much better. And it really paid off. Like I got a scholarship first semester because of my grades. You know, I got a communication scholarship. I didn't have a single credit of communication. I was taking it that semester. They gave me a scholarship.
The University of Utah.
Yeah, University of Utah did. Yeah, because
awesome.
It was specific to the communication major. So yeah, I applied. They gave it to me. You know, it was based on grades. It wasn't a minority scholarship. A lot of people asked me that. It wasn't.
You sure, Johnny?
Yeah. I would have got a lot more money. No, some Asian girl got the minority scholarship. And
the Asians always get it.
Yeah. And she deserved it too. She had like a crazy rap sheet. And I was just happy, you know, it was $1,500 a semester. I'll take that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, and
so you just kept your grades up.
Yeah.
You started going into the communications program.
And then, you know, I discovered KU Radio.
Yeah.
You know, Sasha, he approached me, you know, he's like, hey man, you're really funny in class. You know, I'm doing this thing over at KU. Do you want to join up with me? And I'm like, yeah. And, you know,
and approximately how many years ago was that?
About 2 years.
Oh, so about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
And about a year and a half into going to the U.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
If that can build the timeline. I know it gets a little hazy.
Trying to follow it here.
Yeah.
To follow.
So yeah, you know, the communication program has given me so much. You know, I get to work with KU Radio. And, you know, I get, you know, you've seen it, the studio, I get all that stuff. I get
that's how me and you met for the first time was you and Sasha invited me on as a guest on Ol'Ute Radio.
Yeah.
It was Ol'Ute Radio at the time.
It's always been.
Yeah. So, I was honored. I was like, oh my gosh, they want me on their radio show. And how long did you co-host with Sasha then for a little while?
For over a year.
Over a year, yeah.
Yeah, I took some time off just because like I got off the Ritalin and I needed to, you know, just refocus. And I got a job. I needed to get a job at ABC and stuff.
Dude, it's tough doing all of these projects that do not pay anything. So people listening, if you guys realize the podcasts that you listen to, the talk radio, whatever, you know, KU radio, all of that, nobody's getting paid for this stuff. We're doing it because we love it.
Yeah.
We do it because we want to give something back to whatever community we're part of, whether it's a comedy community, you know, Salt Lake City, you know, giving something. It's like there's times, I mean, I'm sure it gets frustrating even for yourself where you're like, fuck, I'm not making any money doing this.
Dude,
and it shouldn't be about the money, but it is sometimes.
Well, you need it sometimes. Like I work about 60-hour weeks just doing everything that I do. Everything.
And you work at ABC4.
Yes, Channel 4.
Do you care if we talk about that for a little bit? We can
talk about all that.
Yeah. What do you do at ABC4?
So, Channel 4, I am part of the production crew. it consists of 3 different positions that we rotate through. It's teleprompter, floor director, and cameraman. All of these jobs take place within the actual studio. So when you see the anchors, the weatherman, like that's me on camera shooting it.
Wow.
Or that's me, telling the anchors to be at this, to look at that camera.
So you're the guy behind the camera, moving it around, angling it.
That's one of the jobs, yeah.
And how long have you been there for?
I'm coming up on a year this August.
Wow. Did you, when you landed that, was that your first job at ABC4, or were you the guy in the mailroom in the basement at first, or?
No, Sasha had the job originally.
Okay.
He got it he started as an intern, and then he got a job there. And then he got a job at Pac-12, and he recommended me. And then, with I have a pretty solid resume, just with everything that I do.
Lucky.
I'm not trying to brag,
yeah,
but
got a pretty solid resume.
I do all right. All right. And I've got a lot of ties to the university for everything I've done. And, they brought me on, they hired me, and yeah.
ABC4 brought you on and hired you.
Yeah, they brought me on and hired me.
Did you feel like $1 million when they said you got the job? I mean, that to me would be a dream job.
I'm
sure there's times where you're
no. It's when I walked in and our interview was him just showing me around. So this is what you'll be doing. This is what you'll be doing. And he's like, if you want it, you can have it. The pay is not that great, but it's a foot in the door and you can work your way up. And and it's been one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. I work in television. You know how crazy that is? Stuff I shoot is on TV, and it's one of the most high stress, most high rewarding jobs. Because if I fuck up, you see it. You see it because it's on camera.
And so it's the news.
Yeah.
Let's say I turn on Channel 4 News.
Yep. Channel 4.
What time of the day are you usually?
I do let's see. When I'm behind the camera, I shoot the 5 and the 6 o'clock news.
Okay, so when I'm sitting there, I'll be like, "Oh, Johnny's probably doing this because it's wiggly. It's not. It's not being. The camera's a little shaky, so that's probably Johnny's angle."
At work, we have this thing. One of the first times I was on camera, I was supposed to do basically a zoom out to end the show. We kind of zoom out so you could see the whole studio. And this was my first time, and I was super nervous. And I accidentally zoomed in, so then I quickly zoomed out, so it went back and forth, the live shot. And so at the end of the show, it just goes back and forth, back and forth. It looks like the camera's spazzing, and everyone at work calls that a Johnny zoom. So
you gave it a name.
Yeah.
What's the craziest thing that you've seen recorded? Honestly, have you ever seen words slip out, or
I've seen a lot of different stuff.
A nip slip or something.
I haven't seen a nip slip. Yeah. One time in the middle of a show, lightning struck one of our towers.
Okay.
And it just basically reset everything. So we're struggling to put it all back together during the commercial break. Luckily, it wasn't live on air because that would have been just really bad. And that was high pressure. We have, the crazy thing about TV is you're never 100% ready because there's always more to be done. Either there's breaking news or a story just came in or, this piece of equipment is down or this is because it's high stakes, man. There's a lot that goes into TV, a lot of moving parts. And with a lot of moving parts comes a lot of,
so what
errors and hassles.
Say somebody's listening or even say myself, okay, let's say Chris is interested in, getting into, say, a job like yours, where maybe I don't have somebody as lucky as you to say, it sounds like you kind of were helped a little bit to get your foot in the door. How would I get into TV? How would I get into doing your job? Interning, communications classes at a college?
The best way. The very best way is go to Slick. They have the best communication program in the state, hands down.
I'm taking a few of them.
Oh, cool.
That's actually what I'm trying to finish up.
Take them all, man.
Some stuff with communications.
They have better equipment there than anywhere else. While it's great, Slick
cheaper.
has
it's cheaper.
Slick has $1 million studio. I think it's $2 or $3 million they put into it. It's incredible, what they have over there. Their resources are great. And I know, I work with a guy, Justin, and he went to Slick and then he's going to the U. And he knew everything he needed just from Slick. He got his 2-year and he got a job there.
Do you think it's a lot of it though, is kind of the name. Oh, I go to the U, compared to I go to Slick,
Because the U program is good. Yeah. It is good. Like you can, like I'm a product of the U.
Well, no, and I don't even mean that in a bad way, but there are times where I'm going to admit that it's a little like when people say, oh, where do you take night classes? Salt Lake Community College. There's not a whole lot of pride there. And maybe it's just myself. Maybe it's my own, because I feel a little embarrassed that I go to a community college.
There's no shame in any education ever.
Well, thank you.
Seriously.
I feel better.
Don't let anyone who's like says something that's dumb.
Okay.
Because education's education. Get it wherever you can. Yeah. Even if you get it just from online, like we live in the information age and you can get almost anything you need to know online. So, I mean, like the fact you're taking Slick, that's awesome, man. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, there's not a problem with that.
So, back to kind of recommendations. You would recommend going to school.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have to go to school to do it.
Yeah, you have to go to school. You think you really do? You think you need that degree, I guess? Now, you're still going to school, right?
I'm almost done.
You're almost done.
Film experience is a plus. Like, I've had both, like, as I've worked in film and in, like, doing the stuff at the U. So, I think it all depends. Like, I know a guy, one of our guys at ABC, he went to Full Sail University. That's a film school.
Oh, yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, and he has a job in the industry. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be comm. It helps. It helps to be communication. But I think it's so much more of just, you have to show that you're really all about it. Like, you have to have a lot of things. Like, if you're a communications major and you don't have, like, a side thing, like either in radio or, like, shooting a web series or shooting your own, like, little thing on the side, you're in the wrong business.
So doing a podcast like this is actually going to be beneficial of some sort.
Yes.
Down the road.
Yeah.
With whatever I get myself into.
Yes, completely. And media, this is media. You're creating media. It's one thing just to show up to class.
You just helped the podcast keep going. I was about ready to throw the towel. You know what I mean? So the listeners think, Johnny.
It's if you're not doing something, then I think it's much harder to get a job because there's a lot of comm students. There's tons. I mean, I've sat in stadiums full of kids that want my job. Like I've sat in them and I've seen them and I see their attitudes. I see what they're doing. And if you don't have if you're not, shooting something, if you're not recording something, if you're not making something, you're in the wrong business because this is what it's all about. Like whether, like with my degree, I get a job in radio, I can get a job in TV, I can get a job in film. It all depends. Like I could get a job in radio, with my experience with podcasting, because I've done a podcast, you see?
Yeah.
And by doing that podcast, I know what it's like to work in radio. It just makes you better prepared for the job. Because all the job is doing what we're doing right now most of the time.
So where would you like to be?
Me?
Where's your dream?
Oh, my next goal?
Where's or just something that, would you like to do more with radio or TV?
I can tell you exactly what I want. I want to be a writer for Jimmy Kimmel.
Okay.
On ABC.
Why Jimmy Kimmel?
Because he's on ABC, number one. Number two.
So you want to stay with that ABC family?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It would definitely be easier to get on now that I'm already hired by an ABC affiliate.
Have you met Jimmy Kimmel?
No, nothing like that. Yeah. I wish. No, I want to be. Well, first of all, I'm a writer. Like I consider myself a writer first, and then a person.
What do you write?
Second.
What kind of stuff do you write?
Everything. I journal. I write short stories. I've written a bunch of scripts, screenplays. My girlfriend and I, she's my writing partner. We've co-written 2 novels that are 80,000 words.
Wow.
We've written 7 scripts. We placed in the top 5th percentile of the Warner Brothers Writers Program back in 2012.
Wow.
Yeah, I love writing. I write on average about 3 to 4 hours a night, or at least throughout the day, whether it's in little notepads, big notepads, on my phone, on my computer.
So you're always constantly got notepads around and phones.
Well, yeah, because with the ADD, I'm getting all these ideas at once, and the easiest way to curb my ADD.
It flushes your head out, man. I've noticed the same thing. I had a hard time making like to-do lists, but I found if I put it on paper, if I set appointment reminders, anything to just get it out of my head. Do you keep like a notepad by your bed at night? Do you wake up?
I have a notepad everywhere. everywhere. I have a notepad. I have a couple notepads in the bathroom. I have pens in the bathroom. I have a notepad by my bed, on my desk, in my car, in my backpack, everywhere. I have so much paper.
What kind of what kind of phone do you, is there an app that you recommend?
Yes.
Was there what's that, Evernote?
Yes, the Evernote is, I was just going to recommend that.
Okay.
That is the greatest app, especially for ADD. I write everything in Evernote.
I've tried, I think I've downloaded it and I fiddled with it for like 2 seconds and I was like, forget it, and I deleted it. So I should probably re-download it.
It's incredible because it stores everything in the cloud, so you can access your notes from a computer, from your phone. It's great. You can log in through a browser, so you don't even have to install it onto your program.
Really?
Yeah, it's incredible because it allows you to organize notes. You can search your notes. You can add tags. You can index them by notebooks. So I have about a dozen different notebooks where I differentiate what each individual note is. Like I have one for jokes, one for sketch ideas, one for short stories ideas, one for more like scripts, like actual scripts that I work on. And then I have one for just personal, like journaling, and I have one just for like quotes and philosophy, stuff like that. It's incredible. I love Evernote. It's kept me very organized. I put everything I write into Evernote.
Okay.
So like I take my first draft and then I rewrite it into Evernote. It's incredibly, what's the word? Tedious. But I reread all my notes and I enter them into Evernote, and that's a second draft, and that the majority of writing is rewriting.
Where do you find time to do all of this?
I make the time.
That's what's, it's so difficult. And then plus, like you said, you got a girlfriend. So,
well, she's a writer too, so she understands.
So she understands. Is she writing a lot as well?
Oh, she is one of the most focused writers I've ever met.
Okay.
See, I'm all over the place. Like when I get a story, I get it in my head, like in pieces. Like I get it out of order.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll just get a line of dialogue and I go, oh, that would be perfect for him to say.
See, and I'm the exact same way. So, yeah. But she's very organized.
So the best way to describe our writing partnership is that if what we were writing was the human body, she would be the skeletal structure. I would be, the organs. Like she can get me from, she's very linear. She she outlines everything that she writes. So she knows beginning, middle, end. She knows it. I can come in and fill in like the moments. So I can create intimate moments or really funny scenes, but I can't write like the way she does. She has the ability, the stamina to write for like longer periods of times on one subject. I don't have that ability. I write a lot of short stories. That's where my strength is. I write a lot of sketch. That's where my strength is. Jokes, like that's easier for me, like littler things. She writes these epic stories with these epic characters. And then I come in and I'm able to inject like the emotion, the humor, a lot of different things. It's amazing. She's very clinical, very focused, very organized. But you guys
mesh well together with your different styles. Now, do you have like a certain an atmosphere or a place that you can feed off of and write better, like in a noisier atmosphere, coffee shop? Do you have like a bedroom at home?
On our couch.
On your couch, you just like to sit and write?
She sits on her couch. I sit on one of those big, those big balls at the gym that you can like do sit-ups on, like
really?
Bosu ball, I guess.
Okay.
I sit on one of those because I like to bounce because I'm ADD. I can't sit still.
Yeah.
So it's perfect for me. So like I get to move in.
You put some music on, maybe a glass of wine.
More we don't
silence.
Not drinking. We don't have anything on in the background. We're very focused. If anything, we'll drink a Rockstar. Maybe.
There you go, a man after my own. Yeah. What's your favorite Rockstar?
Lemonade.
See, I like the that new peach sparkling
is that
Rockstar.
Good? I haven't had it yet.
I'm not really a big carbonation fan. I really try to stay away from the carbonation, but oh my gosh, I wish I would just make a peach Rockstar already.
Yeah, I drink green tea, a little bit of coffee. I'm starting to learn about coffee, but I don't know. And like.
What do you mean you're starting to learn about coffee?
Like I just got into coffee. Like I brew my own coffee now and I make it. Like I
look at you all fancy.
Yeah, I'm trying. So yeah, like our writing process is this. She'll sit on the couch and she'll read me what she's written, and then we'll go over it line by line together. And then I'll add or I'll cut away or I'll interject something. So I'm like, okay, so you want this with this character? Then we'll do it this way. We'll have him come in, we'll have her sit down, and then she'll announce that she's pregnant. You see, like it's like that. Like she shows me where to go. Like it's incredible. Like I could never do it without her. Like she pulls things out of me because she provides that structure. It's a very linear path. So I'm able to, come in and like create these really cool scenes because she let me know like, where she wants to go. It's perfect.
Well, it does sound like the perfect relationship. You know what I mean? And trust me, as somebody who, it's tough to find somebody who's you're compatible with or who enjoys a smidgen of what you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
You know, they try to pretend, oh, I like the fact that you podcast. But,
no, I get that.
So where did you meet her at? You said down in Utah County?
I met her at Gold's Gym.
At Gold's Gym?
Yeah. She graduated school when she was 20.
Okay, well,
So
an overachiever.
Yeah. Oh, she's like the queen of overachieving. And she's incredible. And like we met and, you know, it took us about a year. Like we went on one date. Yeah. But it was
dude, you can't rush it. You can't. And that's what I try to tell girls too. I'm like, these girls like try, you know, the first date. So, do you want to have kids? Do you want, you know, it's like, gosh, let's just hang out. Let's just get to know each other. Yeah.
So we got to know each other for about a year. And then around August after my 21st birthday, we made it official. Yeah. And we've never looked back since. And we've been 6-7 years now. Nice. 6 going on 7. Nice. I'm so lucky.
So, I mean, do either one of you guys have writing of yours like online or published? Where, like somebody listening?
You can check out her blog at sarahtoday.com. Her theories about writing are
is that
incredible.
Sarah with an A?
H. Yes.
H? Because my sister's Sarah. Yeah. But I think she's just S-A-R-A.
Yeah, she has an H. Yeah. You can check that out.
What about you?
Do I have anything online? I'm actually, that's funny you bring that up.
Anything online?
I'm developing it. I'm taking web design right now.
Really?
So I'm designing a website for myself where I'm actually going to put up my tips on writing.
I need help with the I Am Salt Lake website. Yeah. That's what I need help with. Yeah. But,
so I will have stuff about
you
writing.
will have stuff. Yeah. I mean, do you want to have like published books eventually? Or like I've had like one of my recent people on the podcast that did like ebooks. What are your thoughts on like ebooks?
I have written a collection of short stories that I am hesitant to self-publish.
Okay. And why is that? Why?
Because it's erotica.
Nice.
I wrote like about 6 short erotic stories. And they're all edited.
Send them over my way.
I'll send some your way, yeah.
You know,
and
I'm like a lonely man at night.
And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with like fear, because like I want to publish them, but I'm afraid like if it'll be taken the wrong way or like, I don't know, like is that a weird thing, you know?
Well, have an alias or
see, that's the problem.
I
don't want to do an alias, but I may have to, but I don't want to.
Who was it? I mean, Stephen King, he had a different pen name,
Richard Bachman.
But I'm sure at the time when he published as Richard Bachman, people didn't know it was him. But then eventually it was like, okay, go back and read some of his other stuff. And maybe it'd be the same way for you.
Yeah, and I've thought about that.
Where you can have, because was that, I don't know much of the Stephen King story. I don't know if you know, do you know, was
I'm
that?
a diehard Stephen King fan.
Really? Yeah. I mean, I've read a handful of his books. I love his writing.
You should read On Writing.
Somebody else, I talked to another writer that recommended that book. Was the reason for his pen name out of fear?
The reason for his pen name was because it was different from what he was writing. Okay. It was more like sci-fi. It was less traditional horror. And this is when he was being managed by an agent who wasn't the best for him. Okay. Like when he left his agent, he realized like that agent had cost him like over $20 million just over the years with bad deals and, you know, bull crap. And I think, he wanted to write something different. Also, I think personally, from my perspective, I think he also wanted to see if it was his name that was selling books or if it was his merit. You know what I mean? Because J.K. Rowling tried to do the same thing.
Yeah, you build a name up, though, for yourself. Yeah. And I think that helps.
Yeah. But yeah, he wrote, like, under his pen name, he wrote The Long Walk. He wrote Running Man. He wrote, what was it called? Blaze. He's written a couple other ones. I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, I don't know, he had his reasons. That guy's a prolific writer. I don't understand. Like his ability to write just is awe-inspiring.
What about just the fact that he can produce as much as he does?
He wrote The Shawshank Redemption. He wrote It.
Yeah, some classics.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Shining.
Yeah, The Shining. The Shining, man.
Brilliant. Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean,
what's your favorite Stephen King? Is that putting you on the spot?
Yeah, I like his short stories best, but definitely The Shining's up there for me. Like, that's one I've read a bunch of times. It, I've read twice, but I feel like it's a bit long. You know, I remember it's 1,029 pages in the paperback. It's a bit much. You know?
Wow, you even have down to the page count.
Sometimes I get a little weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to read.
What about like typing with an old typewriter? Does that inspire you at all?
No, not at all. I it's funny. I was thinking about that the other day. I have no clue why anyone would ever want to write on a typewriter.
Really?
It is a nightmare. I've written on typewriters.
Oh,
it sucks.
I have too.
It sucks because like you get ink everywhere. You got the ink, the little ink ribbon. You got to put that in. You know, you got to make sure the paper's even.
Oh, I messed up. I got to get a little white out.
Exactly. You got to do white out. You got to retype over it. And then you got to like, every time you hit, like, you got to like clack it. Like, it's so distracting. It's so just awful. There's too many distractions.
So on that note, what are your thoughts of, like, I'm pretty new to the iPad mini world. Okay.
Yeah.
And I love ebooks, and I love to just be able to go to the library, online, you get a book or buy a book on Amazon.
Yeah, it's great.
But then you get these people, I love to hold a real book, and I love the smell of a bookstore. Mm-hmm. I do too, but I find I can read more if I can read it on a tablet. I mean, how do you read your books?
I'm about
50-50?
Yeah, about 50-50. I have over like 16 gigs worth of ebooks.
Okay.
Just that from collections. And, I hoard books. I love books. I go to DI and I buy like 6 books at a time.
Really?
Yeah. And reading is, out of everything that I can do, one of the best things I'm good at is reading. Like I just inhale books. I've grown up, I didn't really have a TV for like the first, up to like second or third grade. I didn't have like a real TV. Like I had a little pocket TV. So I would read a lot. My parents were big book readers. They would always give me the classics. Like I remember my mom giving me Of Mice and Men when I was in 4th grade.
Wow.
Yeah. And like she read it with me and she explained to me what it meant and, the foreshadowing, what all that meant. And books have opened up a world to me that it's incredible. Like there's so much opportunity within books. Like everything you read, even if I get like one good idea out of like one book, it was worth it. How
many books do you think you read a week?
Oh, easily I read, let's see. Before I got so busy, I was reading about 4 to 5 books a week. Now I'm down to like 2 to 3. Yeah, about 2 to 3
Which is
books
still incredible.
Yeah, well, it also depends on the size of the books. Like I'm reading Bill Clinton's autobiography right now. And
How is that?
It's really good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a sucker for autobiographies.
Oh, I love them. Like documentaries, autobiographies, anything on the history of music or anything like that.
Well, I love hearing how they did it. I love reading about great men, and I love the vulnerability that comes with a well-written autobiography. That's why I love Malcolm X. He was incredibly vulnerable in that. His ability to show like the transformations that he went through. He went through like 3 major life transformations. He went from being a black hood kid to converting to Islam and doing what he thought was right, and then eventually leaving that system of Islam to try to develop a new one. Like those are like major changes in a person's life, and he was able to document that and write that down, and I was able to share that experience with him, because when you read it, it's like he's sitting right next to you telling you the whole story, and it's good. And yeah, Bill Clinton's is good like that. He glazes over the stuff you don't want to read. Like I hate an autobiography where they dwell on childhood and it's just a bunch of descriptions like, oh, we used to live next to a babbling brook with crooked trees. And, like Bill Clinton's like, yeah, I went to school here. I did that. So anyways, the campaign started like this, He gets right to it. It's good. I like Arnold Schwarzenegger's autobiography. That's a fun one.
Did you listen to him on the episode of The Nerdist?
Yeah.
I know we talked. Yeah. I thought that was such a fascinating interview.
Dude, the point he makes about how he got, gyms into hotels.
Uh-huh.
I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I wasn't, that was before I was born and stuff, but still, like, I never thought about how deep of a reach he's had.
Oh, absolutely.
It's incredible.
So many of us just know him from Twins, but he goes so much deeper than Twins.
There's that guy from Twins.
Oh man, no. So you dabbled in stand-up comedy for a minute, right?
Yeah.
So what's your stand-up comedy story? I mean,
that's interesting. I took a break from stand-up because stand-up takes a lot of my focus away.
Okay.
Like I kind of get a little bit consumed by it, and I wanted to finish up school. I wanted. Like it requires too much focus because I love stand up. I think it is the greatest form of self-expression. I think it is the coolest way to get ideas across. And I love the reach that it has. And when I started doing stand-up and it was starting to pick up for me, guys were asking me to open for them and
really?
just just for a little bit. And my grades started slipping. And my education is paramount. That's like number one. Like I have to get this degree. I have to, finish up school and then I can focus on stand up. But I still write. I write jokes constantly. Yeah. I love writing jokes. I love the way a joke is set up. I love the setup. I love the punchline. I love the structure. I love like the rhythm to it. The rule of three. I love all of that.
Who's your all-time favorite comedian?
All-time favorite. That's a tough one.
I guess that would be tough to all-time. Maybe current. Who's your favorite current comedian?
Johnny Carson.
Okay.
Yeah, Johnny Carson. Yeah, I've recently, I just read his a biography from his lawyer. It was Henry Bushkin. It's great. It's a great biography. And he talks about his experience with Johnny. Johnny was such a tortured soul, but when he stood on stage, he shined like no other. Like he was so good at comedy. It was like in his DNA, his ability to be funny, his ability to bring out the best. Because not only is he funny, but he can make you funny. And that's real talent. That's a real comedian. He is able to make you say something funny and he makes you look good.
Yeah.
And that is one of the most talented things I've ever seen.
Well, I think a lot of comedians are good at that.
Yeah.
Because they have their own inner, demons that they're struggling with, but they put a smile on their face and they say, you know what? I'm going to make you laugh tonight.
Yeah. And he shined. He shined like none other.
Yeah.
I've never seen, like, I take a very academic approach with comedy. I guess you could call me a comedy nerd. I don't really like labels, but he was so clinical in his ability to be funny. Like, there's scenes where there's scenes where I watch him and you could see like the joke budding in his head and he's taking his time. So he used to be a magician and he knows how to like use pauses. He knows how to misdirect. He knows how to buy himself time. So you can see the gears turning while he's developing a punchline. Like, for example, he had on a guy, it's a really popular clip. You can find it anywhere. He had a guy throwing an axe and the guy on his first try accidentally threw an axe into the crotch of like the cutout. Okay. And like the whole crowd is laughing. The guy's like embarrassed. Johnny grabs him and he holds him because the guy wanted to like run it, because he just holds him and lets the audience laugh. And he's holding two of the axes and he's just sitting there. He's just thinking of his punchline, enjoying the laugh, letting the laugh die down. He was careful not to step on the laughs. That's something that only like a seasoned vet can recognize, knowing, like the pacing of that. And he sits there and he's just sitting there holding on the punchline. And then he goes, I didn't know you were Jewish, cause and, it's moments like that where I'm watching him and I'm just blown away. Like he knew to do that and he just did that all off the cuff. That was off his top of his head. That wasn't planned. That was just his skill.
Just learning how to, bounce stuff off. I mean, it's the same thing with radio, same thing of talking with people. I mean, so many people I brought on this podcast. I mean, you never know what you're going to get. You're going to get somebody who's going to talk to you. You're going to get somebody who's not going to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's, great TV person, great writer.
Yeah. So yeah, he's my all-time favorite. I also like Richard Pryor for his vulnerability.
Oh, Richard Pryor. I mean, come on. He's got to be on every comedian's top 5.
He's still funny
list. What about podcasts? Do you still listen to many podcasts?
I listen to tons of podcasts.
I mean, is there a couple that kind of obscure ones that maybe you would recommend?
The Crab Feast with Ryan Sickler and Jay Larson.
I can recommend that as well.
That is my hands down favorite. I listen to that every Tuesday. I download it and I pop it in my ear and I do the dishes because that's
Yeah,
like, that's when I.
What do you like? What do you like about that show? I always ask people favors of shows, but what do you like about it?
They tell stories while it's pre-planned ahead of time. Like they know what topics they're going to talk about.
You think so?
Yes, I know so. They have a very organic way of getting there.
Okay,
and within that organic method, you hear real conversations, and it just feels like you're hanging out with your buddies. Telling funny stories, drinking beers, like at a barbecue, like the essence of the Crab Feast. Yeah. Like you have a crab feast, you drink beer, eat crab, and tell funny stories. And that's what they do. They just sit there and they just tell funny stories, and it's hilarious. And it's comfortable and it's comforting. A big reason I listen to podcasts is because there was a point in my life where I didn't have many people I could talk to that I feel like I could talk to. you know, like whether it was just, you know, because of issues of mine or because of personal, you know, personality differences or conflicts. So when I listen to these podcasts, you know, I feel like I'm hanging out with my friends, you know, because I listen to them every week. I know who they are.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's the way it should be. You should develop that relationship where people are like, oh my gosh, what's Johnny up to? What's Chris up to?
Exactly.
And I mean, I got my favorites. I got my favorite podcasts that I listen to that I got to find out what they're up to.
Yeah. Hands down Nerdist. Fitz Dog's good. Yeah. I really like his approach to comedy and to interviewing. He's very professional, very rigid. He's a comedy writer as well. Yeah. Yeah. And, he's a comedy writer first, comedian second, in my opinion. He's written for Ellen. I think he wrote for Conan. No, he wrote for The Daily Show or The Late Show. He either wrote for Bill Maher or the guy from The Daily Show. I can't remember. Jon Stewart.
What about non-comedy podcasts? You know, because you hear that so often, so quickly of, podcasts people listen to. Oh, I listen to The Nerdist. I listen to WTF. I listen to, is there any other podcasts out there? Somebody was telling me about a podcast, The Dead Writers. Gosh, I was just curious. I can't remember the full name of it, and that's why I brought it up. And I've searched for this podcast and I can't find it, and so I thought, well, maybe
The Dead Writers.
This guy comes back to life as old writers or something. And I'm probably totally butchering it, and people listening are like, "Come on, Chris, it's this."
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah. So I was just curious if you listen to any.
I listen to some writing podcasts.
Okay.
The Nerdist Writers Panel.
Okay,
that's a great one.
I was just curious, besides, because I'm always looking for non-comedy, even non-comedy interview podcasts. Because it seems like that's so many of the podcasts out there are just comedians getting interviewed.
Well, because comedy, it's a great... Well, podcast is a comedian's, like, bread and butter. You know what I mean? It's perfect for them. Give them a mic and, just let them go at it. Non-comedy podcasts, I don't really listen to that many. Honestly.
No, and that's fair. That's fair. What about audiobooks? Do you listen to audiobooks?
I don't have the patience.
What are your thoughts on audiobooks?
I have a couple audiobooks of just books I enjoy. Like, I'll listen to them while I sleep. But if I can't listen to an audiobook if I haven't read it already, because it's too slow. Because I read really fast.
Okay.
So like I power through, I inhale books. So for me, like, that's too slow. Listening to it, the audiobook. Like, I have to, like, absorb the information faster.
I remember one semester I took a class, and I forgot what the book was, and it was about the time of a road trip. And I'm like, cool, I'll just download the audiobook and I'll listen to it on the road trip to California.
Yeah.
My God, that was horrible.
Yeah.
It was just, there was just something about it. I was like, I could not listen to this. I do not care if I get a failing grade on this.
Yeah.
I couldn't do the audiobook thing.
Growing up, we used to listen to a lot of Charles Dickens.
Okay.
Like, Great Expectations was a big one. David Copperfield, Tale of Two Cities. We used to listen to those audiobooks, stuff like that. Man of La Mancha by Miguel Cervantes. That's a great audiobook. Well, if you can get I guess it's the opera version, actually. So it's not technically an audiobook. It's an opera performance of the book. But it's like 10, 12 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super long. That's good. I like audiobooks that are read from the writer's voice.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely don't like it when they just hire some guy.
And I've heard a lot of authors are doing that now, where they're reading their own books. Yeah. And so maybe I need to give it another try.
Yeah.
But
it all depends.
Do you play any musical instruments?
No.
I always ask that.
I haven't. I lack that talent.
Yeah.
I could beatbox. That's about it.
So what's in store? Where? I don't know. It's summertime. Winter's around the corner. What does the rest of the year have in store for Johnny? As we kind of wrap this up a little bit here, you know what I mean? And just kind of, what do you got in store?
What's coming up next? Sarah and I are finishing up this book that we've been working on. We've been talking to some agents about it, and we want to get it to a place where we feel ready for it to go.
Yeah.
We're getting closer and closer every day. I'm going to keep working at ABC. I'm finishing up school. Our podcast is picking up. There's a lot of cool stuff coming on in the future.
Ol'Ute Radio, take a listen.
Yeah, Ol'Ute Radio, KUTeradio.org. You can check it out. There's a lot of cool stuff coming in the future I can't really talk about yet.
I can respect that. I can respect that.
And then, just keep doing more of what I'm doing, until something picks off,
That's what I tell myself. If I keep doing this, eventually it will pay off.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite, I have to ask you this, Johnny, any favorite eating spots in Salt Lake City?
I love the Red Iguana.
Okay.
I love Este Pizzeria.
There we go.
That's fantastic. It's right next to Sugar House Barbecue. I love the Market Grove Deli for their sandwiches. Monster sandwiches.
Down there about 17 South and Main, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like 1600 something.
Have you been to Town and Country?
No, not yet.
Sandwiches.
Is that good?
I think they're on Main Street as well at about 29th South and Main Street.
Yeah.
Fantastic sandwiches.
Yeah.
Try them out when you can. Anyways, didn't mean to interrupt you there.
You're fine.
So, I always have to ask this. It's kind of become a signature question of favorite places to eat at.
Totally, yeah. That's about it for all the places I like that are unique to Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
B&D's Burgers, right next to the U. They're literally right across the street from the University of Utah off of President's Circle.
Oh, you know what? I've driven by there. I have not been in there yet. I have to try it out.
Get a banana cheesecake shake, too. It's killer.
Okay.
Killer. And yeah, their burgers are great. I get the Big Barney. It's kind of like their version of the Big Mac. It's delicious. It's a quality burger. I love that place.
Well, awesome. I'll have to check it out next time I'm up in that neck of the woods. Well, I'm glad I had an opportunity. I've been wanting to bring you on. I mean, ever since I was on Ol'Ute Radio with you and Sasha, I've been wanting to bring you on I Am Salt Lake, find out a little bit more about you, have you share your story. So I was glad I was able to finally fit you in, get you in. That's why I was like, I'm going to message Johnny. I'm going to get him on the show. I got some time here now.
This was huge for me. This was like a bucket list moment.
Really?
Oh yeah, hands down. Hands down. No, I'm serious.
Whatever.
When you messaged me, I was giddy, man. I've been running. I've been practicing like questions in my head while I'm taking a shower for like the past 2 weeks. Like I've been thinking about everything I've wanted to say on this show. I've been thinking about how excited. Like I was pumped, man. I really appreciate being on here. Like I love what you're doing. Like I love the show. I think it's really cool, and I'm so glad I get to be a part of it.
Well, no, absolutely, and I'd love to bring you back on.
Yeah.
And even do a part 2 or
that'd be cool. There's so much.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so much you can cover. We could probably talk all night, but I think we kind of got a good flavor, a little bit of who you are and what you're about. I found out a lot about you that I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Well,
most people don't really know me that well. Yeah. I have a hard time opening up.
What about you? Are you on Twitter? You're on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
What's your Twitter handle?
At Johnny McKeon. That's McKeon. Just Johnny McKeon.
Okay, and then Facebook? Do you
Instagram?
Care?
All that. Yeah.
People random. You're not weird about random people following you.
Not at all.
Because again, that's what I try to do with the podcast is just kind of create this community.
Yeah.
Let's everybody help each other out.
Follow me. Message me if you want to. Like, ask me anything about writing or just talk or anything. I'm always open to talk, Yeah, so message me. Do whatever, yeah. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's all Johnny McKeon.
And I'll put all the links on the show notes cool. on a website that I need to revamp. So if there's any website developers, I know you mentioned it, Johnny, that you're working on that. I need some help on that web.
Yeah.
No, because it's gotten to the point actually too where it needs to be even more searchable.
Yeah.
Because I've had such a large different diversity of Salt Lake where it's like maybe people just want to talk to artists, writers, musicians, business owners, comedians, whatever. And maybe eventually these will all be on a CD.
Yeah.
Or something.
That'd
I don't
cool.
know. So
you could release like a big box set like Mark Maron.
99 cents for the entire set. And nobody will still buy it. So anything else you want to add before we close out here, Johnny?
Listen to Ol'Ute Radio Tuesdays, Thursdays from 6 to 9 p.m. on kuteradio.org. Follow me on Twitter at Johnny McKeon.
And then Ol'Ute Radio, what's their Twitter?
At Ol'Ute Radio.
Ol'Ute, simple enough?
Yep. Yeah. Simple enough. That's about it. I mean, yeah, thank you. I mean, it was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Johnny.
Totally.
All right. Many thanks goes out to Johnny McKeon for coming on this episode of the podcast. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our conversation. I know I had a great time sitting down and chatting with him, getting to know him a little bit better. Follow him on Twitter, Facebook, listen to Ol'Ute Radio. I'm going to put all those links on the show notes at iamsaltlake.com. You can call the voicemail lineup 385-202-5926. Let me know what you thought of the show. Let me know what you think of the podcast in general, or if you just want to say hello. I'd love to hear from you guys. I know a lot of you guys out there are listening, but I'd like to get to know you guys personally just a little bit better. So make sure you're following me on Twitter. I am Salt Lake. Tweet at me. Tell me hello. Call the voicemail. You can actually text that number as well. Again, that's 385-202-5926. Make sure to leave a review in iTunes if you haven't left a review yet. That helps the podcast immensely. If you'd like to throw $1 or $2 to donate towards the podcast, help to keep the podcast going, you can click on that PayPal button at I Am Salt Lake, or just go to iamsaltlake.com/donate and help keep the podcast going. It's not free for me to do, but I love doing it, and I love helping out the city of Salt Lake City. But your support means a lot to me. So sharing your favorite episodes on your favorite social media sites is another way you can help the podcast immensely. Share the podcast with your family and friends. That way they get to know about I Am Salt Lake podcast. Don't make it your dirty little secret. So anyways, this week coming up, I'm heading out of town. I'm going to do some camping with the family, doing a family reunion type thing. Should be a good time. And hopefully I have some good stories to share with you with that. Anyways, hopefully you guys are enjoying summer. It's a great time of the year here in Salt Lake City. Twilight concert series started. Downtown Farmers Market at Pioneer Park is in full effect. Lots of festivals going on. Hopefully you guys are getting involved. Hopefully Craft Lake City, that's right around the corner. I'm excited for that. It's one of my favorite events here in Salt Lake City. The beer festival's coming up. All kinds of good stuff here in Salt Lake City. So get out, support local, love the city that you live in, support everything Salt Lake City. And until next time, thank you so much for listening to the I Am Salt Lake podcast.